Now that Jess has gone over the admin settings and the F5 settings, we're going to go into the test screen. So first I'm just going to highlight, she talked about the manual 6-minute walk test availability is set to enabled. So we are going to now go into the test, just so you can see what this looks like. I'm going to start here. Here's your patient visit screen. You can see we have 6-minute walk test enabled, and then we will begin test. Click on the 6-minute walk test tab, and you can see it's set to the auto 6-minute walk test. If you don't want to use the auto 6-minute walk test, you can right click and switch 6-minute walk test type. So now we can switch back and forth to use whichever one you need to use. If you need to remove it, you can remove it. Go back into the patient visit, and again, you can select it. That's how you get it back if you accidentally removed it. Now that I showed you that, we're going to go and take a look at a test that was done using the ATS 2023 Plus settings. So I'm going to click on it. Just did a test just a few minutes ago. Just keep in mind that having that setting flagged will enforce that 2023 acceptability and grading of FRC in the Plus test. It does impact performing the FRC Plus test. All of the visits created when this setting is turned on will enforce the ATS ERS 2023 acceptability rules and cannot be changed after the visit is created. So if you don't want this flagged, you need to unflag it before you start the test. This setting is active by default. So when the FRC setting is active, which Jess showed you where you can activate it earlier, the FRC select and SVC select will be disabled when the user does resistance maneuver. So you can see these last 3 visits here. Jess did open and close shutter panting, and you can see this FRC select. Even if I wanted to, I could not select it. For the SVC select, even if I wanted to, I could not select it because we're enforcing those standards, and those standards say that the maneuvers need to be separate. So you can decide if you want to report the raw, but you're not going to be able to report the TGV. When raw is performed, the FRC TLC value will not have acceptability applied and will not be included in the grading. If you see, we do have grading for PLETH that's been implemented now based on those guidelines. And because we have 3 acceptable, so these first 5 maneuvers were TGV performed with this flag active. And her first 3 tests, she did great, and they were repeatable. So we have the repeatability selected. If we were to go into settings, we would see that that's set at a 5% and cannot be changed. These other 2, let me unhighlight everything else, except for these 2 that have errors. Just like in FVC, the background is telling whether it's usable or unacceptable, and if you hover over these circles here, it's going to tell you why it was usable and or acceptable, or unacceptable, I should say. So in this case, the SVC maneuver was unacceptable, so it's not counting anything as acceptable. If we toggle over to the SVC screen, so you can see SVC selected, we have 3 SVCs selected, and if you toggle over to SVC, it's going to carry that over. So these 3 selected SVCs are what's being calculated to get the numbers. So the SVC, with the settings that are impacted when the 2023 flag is active for SVC, the SVC user setting will always be average IC and ERV, which just covered. The SVC select determines which linked SVC maneuver will contribute to the SVC best effort and therefore used in calculating RV and TLC. The SVC select will only apply when that ATS setting is turned on, which we already talked about. Efforts selected for SVC and PLETH will automatically be selected in the SVC test. And turning off performing the SVC maneuver in the settings will cause the FRC PLETH efforts to be unacceptable. And then efforts will be flagged with a warning when breath stability is not met. So this is an example of a test that was done with that setting active. But if you look at all of our demo patients, we did not have this setting active. So if we open up one of these other demo patients and we go to PLETH, so you can see the difference here because this was performed without that setting. Now I can, if a raw was done, I can select it, or SVC. You can do craziness, whatever you want to do, you can do, and that's the difference.